When growers talk about dead soil, they aren't exaggerating. Anyone who has dug into land that has turned sterile knows the feeling. It doesn't crumble, it doesn't smell alive, and it certainly doesn't grow anything worth the time spent planting. The shocker is that most people assume reviving exhausted earth requires chemicals, machinery, and long waiting periods. Yet, throughout history, across battlefields, abandoned fields, and post-disaster recovery zones, there have been plants so powerful they work like CPR for soil. They restart biological activity, pump nutrients back into the ground, and change the entire behaviour of the ecosystem around them. These plants aren't modern inventions. They're the same species used centuries ago by farmers who didn't have fertiliser bags to fall back on. The reason they matter in 2025 is simple. Soil collapse is showing up everywhere, from rural homesteads to urban gardens, to land that has been farmed past its limit. If you know these species, you gain the ability to recover land that everyone else has written off. Before diving in, here's the hook that history buffs and survival-minded viewers appreciate. When American soldiers came home from the Second World War and returned to farms that had been overworked during the war effort, Extension Services didn't hand them synthetic fertilizers. They handed them seed packets. The government knew that biology, not chemistry, was the long-term fix. The same principle applies today, especially for hydroponic-to-soil crossover growers who want to reclaim damaged plot space. Once these plants root themselves, they behave like living repair crews, and if you use them correctly, they can transform your soil far faster than most people expect. The first plant acts as a biological jackhammer that opens oxygen back into the soil. Daikon radish, known globally as one of the strongest soil-breaking roots, drills downward with a long taproot capable of penetrating layers that even heavy tillers can't reach. When the root dies back, it leaves behind vertical channels that act as natural aeration shafts. Water moves better, microbes return, and compacted land begins to behave like soil again. So, one practical method is to broadcast daikon seeds across the dead zone just before a rainy period. Once they've grown, you simply let the roots stay in place over winter, allowing those freeze-thaw cycles to break the channels even wider. By spring, those channels will have improved drainage and oxygen flow enough to plant crops that previously failed. Growers recovering clay-choked urban lots? Well, they often see visible structure improvement in just one season. The second plant pulls nitrogen out of thin air and, reloads the soil like a living fertilizer factory. Crimson clover has actually been used since the 1800s by farmers who were dealing with depleted fields. Its roots, they host these special bacteria that fix atmospheric nitrogen and store it in tiny nodules. When the plant is cut down and left as mulch, that nitrogen, it just bleeds into the topsoil. Anyone trying to rebuild soil that has been stripped by overharvesting can benefit from a simple cycle. Sow crimson clover, let it grow until the buds colour up, then scythe it down and rake it lightly into the soil. Within a few weeks, the ground becomes richer and far more responsive. For growers alternating between hydroponics and outdoor soil beds, crimson clover is ideal because it stabilizes nutrients naturally instead of relying on chemical loads that can cause runoff or nutrient lockout. The third plant mines minerals from deep layers that crops normally can't reach. Comfrey, especially the blocking 14 variety, is one of the most potent accumulators known. Its roots tap deep into the subsoil, drawing up calcium, potassium, and micronutrients. Those minerals concentrate in the leaves, which can then be cut and used as mulch or brewed into a liquid feed. There's a historical reason comfrey was cultivated near medieval barns and waste sites. It revitalized beaten land and produced plant material faster than nearly any other perennial. Anyone restoring a depleted backyard plot can plant a ring of comfrey around the perimeter. Cutting it 3 to 5 times a season provides enough nutrient-dense biomass to blanket raised beds or feed compost piles. Over time, this practice builds incredibly rich topsoil without buying amendments. The fourth plant disinfects the soil through natural biofumigation. Mustard greens, especially white mustard, release compounds called glucosinolates when chopped and incorporated into soil. These compounds suppress harmful soil pathogens and break pest cycles that often wipe out crops in already stressed ground. In regions where soil diseases have accumulated after years of monocropping, mustard has been the reset button. A practical approach is to grow mustard until it reaches mid-flower, chop it into pieces, and till or rake it into the top few inches of soil. Then cover the plot with a tarp for a short solarization period. After a few weeks, many growers report that their plots become far more stable and pest-resistant. For survival gardeners, this method creates a cleaner soil environment without commercial fumigants. The fifth plant stabilizes the soil biome with a root system that feeds beneficial microbes non-stop. Ryegrass, especially winter rye, produces root exudates that feed microbial life even during the cold seasons when soil activity usually stops. This steady feeding regime prevents soil from collapsing into dormancy. It also suppresses weeds, protects the surface from erosion, and leaves behind organic matter that breaks down into long-lasting carbon. Anyone trying to keep soil alive between crop cycles can sow winter rye immediately after clearing a bed. When spring approaches, the rye can be cut and used as surface mulch or crimped to form a protective mat. Now, this method is actually quite common in regenerative agriculture, because it keeps the soil life going continuously. These 5 plants, they form a complete soil CPR system. One drills, one fertilizes, one mines minerals, one cleans, and one stabilizes. When used together, even compacted, nutrient-stripped ground can recover surprisingly fast. A grower rebuilding a dead garden bed might start with daikon to open the soil, follow with crimson clover for nitrogen, add comfrey along the borders for mineral cycling, rotate mustard for disease suppression, and finish with winter rye to maintain year-round biological life. Within a year, most dead soils begin yielding again. If you found this guide useful, make sure to subscribe to Hydrohaven and share this video with anyone trying to bring dead land back to life.